strung up a man, this ain't murder 3. Strange things that happen here, how stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?
Welcome to Strange Things, broadcasting from the Raimundo Rios Mayo Library in Arkansas. And welcome to the show. Today is Saturday, May 13th, 2017, season number 2, episode 18. Yesterday, we recorded the show with Jeff Stewart at the Arkansas studio. However, due to some extreme technical difficulties somewhere between here and there, the first 14 minutes of the show were just us trying to get Jeff on the phone. Rather than leaving that on the archives for all of eternity, I thought it would be far better to simply re-record the beginning of the show and then pick up where we finally got Jeff on a good, clear phone line. So here it is, the beginning of yesterday's show, re-recorded simply to make things sound a little less bizarre. He was born in 1972 in Carthage, Texas. He grew up in Tenaha, Texas, as well as on the Sabine River. Jeff attended Baptist Christian University on a football scholarship and later the University of Colorado. He studied theology, animal science, and electronics. Jeff holds a degree in theology and also electronics while holding certificates as a veterinary technician. Jeff works as a journalist for Texas Fish and Game magazine, as well as other publications. He has a weekly blog on fishgame.com. When folks say outdoorsman, Jeff is who they're referring to. Jeff has been a cryptozoologist and investigator for over 20 years and has appeared on Animal Planet's Finding Bigfoot and Discovery Channel's Survivor Man Bigfoot with Les Stroud, as well as Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. Jeff is well respected as one of the premier wildlife experts, as well as a cryptozoologist in Texas. Jeff is a lecturer and can be seen and heard yearly at the Texas Paranormal Unity Festival in Gansbury, Texas, the Horror Con in Tyler, Texas, Tyler Rose City Comic Con in Tyler, Texas. If it walks, crawls, swims, flies, or slithers, he will hunt it and he will find it. Jeff lives in Tenaha with his wife Sharon. He has 2 adult children, Taylor Pat of Oxford, Mississippi, and Trevin Stewart of Tenaha, Texas. He was on our show back in January 21st, and now we are going to welcome him back to the show. And at this point on, this is where we finally were able to get a good phone connection with him, and so I will switch back to the earlier recording. Jeff, are you there?
Hello.
Howdy at last. Boy, when we have technical problems, we have technical problems. Can you hear me okay?
It is very mechanical sounding, almost like robot voice sounding on my end.
Well, I really must assure you I'm not a robot, so I don't know.
I don't know now.
Okay. Well, once again, we've got Jeff Stewart on the line after several minutes of messing about and trying to get this thing to work. If everything works out okay, hopefully we'll get you through for the next hour, and if not, we will wing it. Well, I've already done your introduction. I got to the point where I said if it walks, crawls, swims, flies, or slithers, he will hunt it and he will find it. So, welcome back to the show, sir.
It is my pleasure to be back on the show.
Did y'all get any of that nasty weather that was going on over in that part of the Texas?
Yeah, we got a bunch of it. We had an F2 tornado on the ground 2 miles from my home. The town of Garrison did a lot of damage. A lot of people homes got messed up and property, things like that. So it was pretty bad. A lot of straight line wind here where I'm at. A lot of downed trees and power lines, and that may be what's wrong with my phone service right now, is because some of these towers are probably dead.
Yeah, that's a very good possibility. I didn't even think of that. You were at the 6th Annual Texas Para-Unity Festival in Glen Rose, Texas. Could you tell the listeners a little something about that?
The Texas Para-Unity Fest is a charity festival. We raise money for a battered women's shelter, and it's also let's see the best way to put this, it helps women prepare to find jobs. And it gives them, if they need clothes to go for an interview, if they need, to bone up their resume, things like this. This is the type of place they go to. They get shelter from the situation they're in, and they get help in obtaining employment and things like that, so they can better themselves and their children's lives. And so it's something near and dear to my heart, and I've been part of this festival for the past 4 or 5 years. And this year we had a really great festival. The lady that normally runs it, Miss Becca Sugart, she could not attend this year because she had taken a job in Florida and couldn't be here. So Dakota Lawrence, who is a well-noted medium in around Shreveport, Louisiana and stuff and everything, Dakota came in. He took over along with another psychic medium friend of mine, Jen Devilier. They took over and really had a jam-up festival this year. We raised a lot of money for charity and had a lot of good speakers, a lot of good vendors, and next year's probably going to be even bigger.
Wow. We had planned to try to attend y'all's conference, and unfortunately my truck needed a few repairs, and so I had a toss-up between attending y'all's conference or paying for my truck's repairs, and, well, got to have the truck.
That's right. If your ox is in the ditch, you got to get it out.
Yes. Could you give us just a quick rundown who all attended as far as the lecturers?
Man, we had a all-star cast. Ken Gerhard, Nick Fern, myself, of course. Oh my gosh, the list just goes on and on. I mean, in the past we've had people like Timmy Snyder. We've had Lyle Blackburn has been there. We have such a good group of people that come and donate their time for this, because this whole thing is for charity. None of us that are there are, getting paid to be there or anything like that. This is 100% charity.
Well, that's fantastic. It's the first time I've ever heard of a paranormal charity raising event, which I imagine y'all are the first.
It's the only one that I know of, period, anywhere. I've never heard of another charity, paranormal and cryptozoological festival or anything like that. This is the only one, and that's why I am so honored to be part of it and to have been part of it for so long.
As I was putting the show together, I found some references to you and the Texas Goat Man. Could you tell us a little about that?
The Texas Goat Man, it goes back. Everybody thinks that the Texas Goat Man, the first thing they think of is the Lake Worth monster. And, the late 60s, Lake Worth monster, a lot of reports of a goat-like humanoid figure terrorizing people around Lake Worth. But it goes back way further than that. It goes all the way back to the original there was a black man that lived in out there near the old Altus Bridge here in Texas, and they called him the Goat Man because he bred and sold goats to area people. He was a very good businessman. One night, local people with hate in their heart Klansmen, things like that. They decided that they didn't like this man making a living and being well thought of and people loving him in the community because he was a black man. And so they went across the bridge. They got him, took him, and hung him from the bridge. When they looked over the side of the bridge to see their handiwork, he wasn't there. There was no body on the rope. Enraged, thinking that he had escaped them, they went back across the bridge into his home to his wife and children.
Sir, you still there? You've kind of faded out. Jeff, can you hear me? Uh-oh, we seem to have lost him again. I hope it's not his phone acting up, because there's nothing we can do to fix that from this end. I just got hung up on. I'm going to call Jeff back, and hopefully we can pick up where he left off. There's nothing like technical difficulties to make a technically advanced show difficult. Very strange. At least it's ringing.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You faded off right after you said that they were enraged because he had disappeared from the bridge, and they were seeking.
They were.
Yes.
Yeah, they were enraged that they thought he had escaped them, and so they went to his home and they killed his wife and his family.
Yikes.
And ever since then, that bridge has been one of the most haunted places in Texas. And that was one of the Goatman legends. But then there's Goatman beings, humanoid-type beings with horns, hooves, things like that, sighted in Panola County, around Lake Merval and around Hills Lake Road.
Uh-huh.
My new book that will be out soon, Wood Knocks Volume 2, I have a chapter in that book all about the Texas Goatman legends, lore, sightings, and all of that. So it'll be hopefully out in just a few weeks.
I was going to ask you about your book and see how it was coming. You mentioned
we got cover art. The cover art was released by the publishers. Leprechaun is the publishers that are putting this book out. David Weatherly is the one that's putting this book together, and I was just so honored to be allowed to be part of. And from what I understand, it's getting closer and closer every day to being released. They gave us the cover art, so once they do that, then you're not far from things being on shelves and on Amazon.
Oh, that's good to hear. When you were talking at, I believe it was the Unity conference, you were talking about you'd received a report from was he a minister in your neighborhood?
He's not in my neighborhood. He's in the county, the adjacent county to where I live. And at the time, I was helping out a friend. He had a sporting goods store, and I was helping him get that started. And this gentleman had been coming in for a number of days, and he knew that I was a cryptozoologist and studied the strange stuff. And one day when it was just he and I in the store alone, nobody else around, he said, "Man, I need to tell you something." And I said, "Yes, sir." "Well, what is that?" And he said, "Let me tell you what I've seen." And he told me the elaborate story. And he's like, "I can't tell anybody about this. They'll run me out of town. I'll lose my church. So please don't tell anybody I ever told you this." And I sat there and I listened to his tale, and when he sat there and said, he didn't know if he was looking at a demon or what he was looking at. And of course, he being a member of the clergy, that would be an honest and easily gotten to assumption. You see something hairy with horns on two legs, it must be a demon. And he watched this thing until it left, and he was like, "I know nothing that it could have been. Do you?" And I'm like, "Well, yes and no." There's Goatman sightings, and started telling him about Goatman. And he's like, "How could that be possible?" And I said, "You saw it, I didn't. You tell me how it's possible."
It does make you wonder what all's running around out there that people are seeing and not reporting. There's been more than one occasion where someone has seen something and then just kept it to themselves simply because they don't want the ridicule.
Exactly. The ridicule is one reason a lot of people don't come forward.
Mm-hmm.
One of the theories that I'm working on with this is not that these creatures are actually goat men, quote unquote, with the, half man, half goat, because we all know that can't happen. But what if these Sasquatch creatures, like many other Native American tribes, wear things on their heads? A lot of your Native American tribes wore the skulls of the animals that they were hunting or that they had killed or whatever on their heads: wolves, bobcats, coyotes, different things, buffaloes. Mm-hmm. They wore their horns, they wore their muzzles, they wore their furs. What if Bigfoot, these creatures, are doing that exact same thing?
Well, that is a possibility.
What if they have some sort of horned animal, like a deer, like a young spike buck, or something like that, those little goatee-looking horns on their head?
Mm-hmm. That is a possibility. You were interviewed by KFAB out of Nebraska. Did they get a hold of you, or did you get a hold of them?
They actually reached out to me. Forgive me, I cannot remember the gentleman's name. It was his radio show right offhand. He knew me through my work and through others, and he reached out to me and, hey, we're having the big festival thing up here, conference, mm-hmm. and we would really love for you to come on our show and talk about it. And I was only supposed to be on there for 12 minutes and ended up being on there for 2 full segments.
Oh.
So it was a really great show, really nice people.
Mm-hmm, that's fantastic. Could you just
actually got Larry the cable guy actually called in whenever we were on a commercial break. Dang. And that was pretty interesting because I never knew that he was a Bigfoot fan.
That's news to me. Not surprising, though, considering he is kind of into things that a lot of people don't realize. I'm also surprised to see
and he is a native Nebraskan. Yep. He's not really from the South like everybody thinks he is. He's a native Nebraskan, so, mm-hmm. It wasn't that uncommon that he might call in on the show.
You never know who is listening when you're on the radio or doing something like that.
Absolutely, and he had even told while we were off the air sitting there, they were just chit-chatting. It was like a 3-way conversation between the host, he, and I. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I don't want to be on the air with this, but I just wanted to let you know, that he's like, I've seen you on TV. And I was like, holy crap, Larry the Cable Guy watched me on TV. That was like, mm-hmm. that was like bucket list item,
Yes. I've seen you speak extensively about spiritual and paranormal links to cryptozoology. Could you give us a bit more on that?
One of the theories that I work on is, why do people say that they see these Bigfoot creatures and things be able to appear and disappear and things like that? I attribute a lot of it to their natural abilities of woodsmanship, being able to use natural camouflage and terrain and shadows and things like that to blend and move and what have you. But there are certain cases that you just can't dismiss where you've got a credible witness and they sit there and, I was looking at this thing and it just disappeared while I was looking at it. I'm not someone that believes the trans-dimensional being type thing where they're traveling between dimensions and all of this stuff. I don't discount it, but I've seen no actual proof of it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we've seen ghosts, we've seen apparitions of dogs, apparitions of cats, all kinds of deer and different animals all throughout history have been wrote about that were ghostly animals. And why would Sasquatch not be able to have ghostly apparitions? And if they are a relative of ours, say, some relic hominid or Native American tribe that has gone pretty much undiscovered or whatever, why wouldn't they be able to have an afterlife of some sort. And maybe what we're seeing is the manifestation of that spiritual entity. And so it's just something that I've worked on and I continue to work on because it fascinates me.
That would explain why it would suddenly just vanish without any clue that it was going away. But how about the fact that it leaves footprints? Far as I know, ghosts don't usually leave. Well, I take it back. That little kid on the Queen Mary leaves footprints on the floor around the pool. So yeah, I guess a Bigfoot ghost could possibly leave footprints.
Well, but the thing is, it doesn't necessarily have to be the ghost leaving the footprints. You have to, at one point in time, have had a physical body in order to be a ghost after you die. So the footprints and things are more attributed to the flesh and blood, living, breathing creature. And the footprints, more along the lines, go to them. And of course, you know, there is all kinds of documented things and where tracks and things like that have just like go right up to a certain point and then disappear.
Kind of like the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that may go into more of a poltergeist type haunting where it has the physical power to manipulate objects and to leave physical evidence, you know, scratches on walls, chairs flipped over, busted tables, cabinets open, that type of thing. Well, if they can do that, well, they could very well leave a footprint in the snow.
Or kind of like that dog that was playing with those leaves in the cemetery.
Yeah. I posted that video, and I had several people that, you know, wanted to get kind of snooty about it, and I'm like, look, I'm looking at this video, and I do not see the leaves of the trees blowing. I do not see the leaves on the ground blowing. I don't see any evidence of wind swirling or whirling. Okay. That being said, people are saying, oh, well, heat rises, cold air. Anyone that's ever seen a dust devil, if you see a dust devil swirling, the minute that dust devil comes into contact with a parked car or a chair or anything, it dissipates because it breaks up the vortex.
Yes.
This thing was swirling all around the dog. The dog was playing with it. When the dog ran away from it, it followed the dog. The dog ran back into the middle of it and barked and bit and did this, that, and the other, and it never stopped swirling. It never interrupted its swirl. Now, can there be natural phenomena to explain this? Of course there can. But can there be unnatural phenomena that explains it? Of course there can.
Yeah, quite possible.
I'm not saying definitively that I know 100% for sure that was a ghost of a little boy. I'm just saying that it was very strange that it acted like no dust devil or wind vortex that I've ever seen in my life. But you go back to some of the old tales of, what do they call them? The wisps? Will-o-wisps?
Will-o'-the-wisp.
I believe is what they were called.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, some of the things like that. And they were acted in such a way. And it was just funny that the only place this thing was doing this was at that little boy's grave, and it was playing with a dog. And like I said, you saw it follow the dog, you saw it interact with the dog. The dog ran away, it ran after or moved in a manner that was going after the dog. So I thought it was interesting, and it was well worth a look, and it's one of those that makes you scratch your head and say, you know, that could be some real interesting stuff. Wish I had been there.
For those of you listening that don't know what video we're talking about, you can find it on Facebook. Look for Jeff Cryptohulk Stewart and just scroll down. You'll see the video of a dog playing in what can only be described as a very unusual cloud of leaves blowing around him.
And if you go look, pay attention. Don't take my word for it. Look at the leaves on the trees in the background. Look at the limbs and see that they're not moving. Look at the other leaves on the ground 5 feet in front of the guy with the camera, 20 feet, 30 feet. Look at them everywhere except for inside the vortex that you can see spinning with leaves. Mm-hmm. There is no wind blowing.
Now, I've heard you mention the possibility of the woods being haunted. Can you give us more on this idea?
In which location? Just generally? Or?
Yeah, just generally. You were talking about how when you're walking out in the woods and you get that kind of a creepy feeling that there's something or someone nearby.
Well, here's the thing. These woods are older than anything else in the world. The dirt is about the only other thing that could be older than the woods, mm-hmm. Even a new growth of woods is growing where an old forest used to stand. And people lived there. Beings lived there. They died there. Even though you may not see those graves, even though you may not be able to see it, but that energy was expelled right there. Mm-hmm. Something died. And that entity, that spirit, that whatever, who knows whether it moved on into the next life? Who knows whether it's trapped on Earth forever, or that energy just transferring from one thing to the next. A lot of times you're out in the woods, and when you're walking through the woods, you feel that feeling like the hair stands up on the back of your neck, somebody's watching you. You turn around, you look, there's nobody there. I've been out in the woods, sit beside a tree, set, say, my binoculars or something down beside me in the leaves, lean back, watch around, everything, go to grab my binoculars, and my binoculars are not where I set them. Mm-hmm. They're 3, 4, 5 feet away from me, and I never heard them move. I didn't hit them and kick them. I didn't place them there, and they're heavy binoculars, so the wind and things like that didn't blow them. If the wind would have been blowing that hard, I wouldn't have been out there. But, things like that have happened. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of strange occurrences happen in the woods, and, people a lot of times experience these, and they scratch their head, and they're like, well, I must have done that absent-mindedly. Mm-hmm. And they didn't. In my opinion, they didn't do it absent-mindedly. They either trying to communicate, or just interacting in any way, shape, possible, because if you were a spirit and you've been out there in those woods for 200, 400, 600 years, anytime you get a chance to interact with anything might be a banner moment.
Yes. Have you ever looked into the Ayu Baciu haunted forest in Romania?
No, I have never. I have heard of it. I've read a little bit about it, but I have not even really given it a lot of thought, because I try to base most all of my research and all of my efforts local, mm-hmm. Within the state of Texas or Louisiana. Every once in a while, maybe something that goes on up, maybe Arkansas or something like that. But most everything centers right here in the state of Texas or in Louisiana.
Now, the reason I had brought it up is locals consider it to be extremely haunted. And when you hear about it, you picture this huge growth of trees, which in reality, the entire forest, the entire woods, is less than a square mile. And if you look at it from above, you'll see there's houses and there's farms and there's crops all over the place. And then there's this one spot where it's nothing but trees. And that just happens to be what the local inhabitants consider to be extremely haunted woods.
Makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. You have a big event coming up in Tyler, Texas soon. You want to tell the listeners about that?
Well, I have the Celtic Festival, the Tyler Celtic Festival, coming up on May excuse me a second. What date is that, dear? But May the 20th. Had to ask my wife. She keeps me straight on dates. May the 20th, Tyler Celtic Festival. I will be there. It is an event put on by my good friend, Mr. George Jones. It is going to be filled with entertainers, Celtic entertainers, bagpipes, man, you name it, games, Highland games. And I will be there discussing all the beasts and lore from the Celtic Isles.
I should have known with the last name Stewart that your ancestors would have been from Scotland.
I am half Scottish and half Native American. I'm Scott and Cherokee and Comanche.
Zoiks. Don't you also have...
And I have direct lineage. I have direct lineage to Robert the Bruce, who was King of Scotland. Absolutely.
A lot of people don't realize that the name Bruce was actually a title before it became a name.
Yes. Right. Absolutely.
How about the June 14th event at the library as well?
June 14th, I will be at the Tyler Public Library. I love Tyler, Texas. Tyler, Texas has, they have been some of my biggest supporters and fans. Everybody around Tyler, I just cannot express enough how grateful I am to them. But I'll be at the Tyler Public Library kicking off their Summer of Reading event, and it is encouraging adults and children to come out and read. And I will be there, and I will be actually reading some books to the groups of children or whoever comes there, and spinning some yarns and telling some tales about maybe even telling about Wiley and the Hairy Man and the Baba Yaga and things like that.
And then, of course, we should mention the fact the Southeast Texas Bigfoot Conference, which is not coming up this year, but 2018.
Yes. 2018 should be such a wonderful, wonderful year. The Southeast Texas Bigfoot Conference should, the way it's building up right now, it's going to rival any other Bigfoot conference in the U.S. From what I understand, we have names are still building as far as individuals who are being invited to come and speak and things like that. I was one of the first that they invited. I was very honored to be amongst the first that they invited to come to this and to speak. And I am looking forward to it so much because every time I go to one of these events, I really love it. The people that come and sit and talk and express their stories and tell me of their encounters and their adventures and things like that, I never leave without feeling like I have made a dozen new friends.
The conference will be at the Walker County Fairgrounds in Huntsville, Texas, April 21st, 2018. So mark it on your calendars so you can attend.
Absolutely, and it is going to be a huge and great event.
Have you had any new sightings in and around your ranch?
Oh, gosh, nothing of any consequence lately. We have had a lot of rain, a lot of bad weather. I have been working on the hog issue here in Texas. That has taken up a lot of my time recently. Our agricultural commissioner decided that he wanted it to be legal in the state of Texas to put out rat poison, basically, for hogs. And myself, along with a lot of other like-minded conservationists, hunters, and it was one of the weirdest things you'd ever seen because us hunters and conservationists came together with groups, animal rights groups, normally that we are at odds with. We threw our differences aside, we came together, and we battled the event of being able to put out rat poison in big bait piles on their property in order to kill hogs, but it was also going to kill every other animal in Texas.
Yes.
that ate the bait, ate the hog that died from the poison, or ate any of a number of animals that would come in and eat off of this. So we band together and we basically got it shot down. So yay for us.
Fantastic. A lot of people, city dwellers, I guess you could call them, or people that just don't know, they get this impression that there's a hog problem. Put out hog food with poison in it, just the hogs will eat it, and that'll take care of the problem. Politicians have this tremendous way of grabbing at the simplest solution, whether it's intelligent or not, and then they run with it. And unfortunately, we wind up paying for their misadventures.
Absolutely. A lot of times we don't think, we put out poison.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you put out poison at your house, you have a mouse problem and you put out poison. Well, you don't think that mouse eats some of that poison. He doesn't die immediately. It may take several days for him to die. He crawls out of your house and crawls next door in the neighbor's house, and the neighbor's cat or dog eats that mouse and he dies.
Mm-hmm.
Or what if, that mouse crawls into the drinking water over at the neighbor's house somehow, some way, a bucket or whatever, and every animal they got drinks out of it, and as that animal decays in there, the poison is dispersed. Same thing was going to happen in our outdoors,
mm-hmm.
in our woods. Deer were going to eat this poison, and it was going to kill them. Mice were going to eat the poison. It was going to kill the mice, but before the mice died, eagles, hawks, all kinds of birds of prey were going to feed on these mice and die. The hogs that crawled off, it was going to take at least a week for these hogs to die
mm-hmm.
of eating this poison. And coyotes were going to eat them when they found them dead. Your dog, your cat, bobcats, cougars, you name it, if it eats meat, it was going to feed on the carcass and then therefore subsequently die. These hogs were going to die in rivers and lakes and streams, and therefore it was going to contaminate the rivers, lakes, and streams. Fish were going to feed off the carcasses and things, and therefore fish don't actually die from the poison, but it's stored in their flesh, and if you catch the fish
mm-hmm.
and you eat the fish, well, it's not poison necessarily to you because it was a anticoagulant that's used for a lot of heart patients called warfarin, but in excess amounts, it's deadly to anybody. But it also reacts with over 147 different commonly prescribed drugs that you might be taking.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of antibiotics it interacts with, and therefore it could have caused deaths in humans by its interaction with other medications. And so we just thought to ourselves, we've got a big problem here in Texas with hogs and all over the South, but killing every other animal and putting our entire ecosystem in jeopardy and putting human lives in jeopardy is not the answer.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like killing your rat problem with a hand grenade. The collateral damage is
exactly
not worth it. Okay.
Well, it's like I told when I was having a conversation with our agricultural commissioner, and he had been calling me a few names, and I said, well, sir, would you burn your house down because you saw a cockroach?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? I said, that's what you're wanting to do. What you are wanting to do is, in essence, the equivalent of you see a cockroach in your house, therefore you pour 5 gallons of gas in the kitchen and light a match.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard or has anyone mentioned to you any activity in the surrounding area that you could talk about? Some story that was passed on to you that you're at liberty to discuss?
Right now, I've got about 4 different possible encounters that I'm investigating. Most of them, I feel, are going to not turn out to be anything of consequence. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's either human pranking or it's going to be a known animal that's doing these things, and until I investigate them and get them sorted out, I really can't say too much about them because I don't want to kind of put the cat out of the bag just yet.
Not a bad idea. What does your family think about the things you do as a hobby?
Well, my family, my wife in particular, is one of my biggest supporters. My wife, she's not even 100% sure she believes in Bigfoot or any of these things, but she knows that I do, and she believes that I've seen what I've seen, and therefore she supports me 100%. And I love that. And my parents have their full support and love, my daughter, my son, and, you know, beyond that, the naysayers and the people that want to make fun of me, I don't care. I honestly don't. They don't matter to me.
That's fantastic.
You know, the people, I've got a lot of people that are, you know, oh, man, you're just lying. Well, you know, the deal is, why would I take the ridicule and go on national television and all that and get made fun of and whatever? And, I mean, to be honest with you, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I haven't made enough money to buy a used truck from this endeavor. So why would I continue to do it if it was just a, you know, lie or a flash in the pan type thing? And so, like I said, I have the full support of my family members and my friends that are true friends and close enough to me to be true friends, and everybody else doesn't matter.
That's a fantastic way of looking at it. Say there's some young person out there listening who has a urge to either become a cryptozoologist or some such. Any words of advice you'd like to pass on to them?
Yeah. You know, follow your dreams. Follow your heart. Follow your passions. Don't let anyone make fun of you or ridicule you or put you down and make it stop you, because that's what they want to do. They want to stop you from being happy. They don't want you to succeed when they're scared to even try. So study. The way to start out is study wildlife. Get books from the library or online or wherever you can read and start studying about nature. Start studying about known species. You cannot study the unknown species without knowing the known species.
Fantastic.
If you're out in the woods and you hear a noise, you can't say, oh, that's Bigfoot, whenever it's a hog or a deer or beaver or otter or whatever. And there's so many cryptozoologists out there today that don't have any woodsmanship knowledge, don't have any knowledge of animals, and they're out there, every single stick that cracks, that's Bigfoot.
Yes.
That's a squatch.
Yes,
so study.
Any books you've read that were helpful?
I'll tell you what. Lauren Coleman's book, Cryptozoology A to Z, one of the best books. Mr. Bernard Hubelman's, he had a couple of books out that I read as a child that were excellent books and helped me. Anything you can get your hands on by my friend Ken Gerhard, Nick Redfern, Lyle Blackburn. Read all of these books. Get a hold of their books. Read them. Because everything you read, you don't necessarily have to imitate them. You don't have to take everything to heart. But it's all knowledge. And it's knowledge that you need to know. Because a lot of their books give you encounters and to let you know what to expect if you're out there and run into some of this stuff, what to look for, things like that. Like I said, you know, I don't know. I know Nick Redfern has, I don't know, probably 50 or more books out.
Yes.
And every one of them are excellent. Not all of them are on cryptozoology. A few are. Check those out. Ken Gerhard, he's got so many good books out, especially stuff around Texas. Ken has a lot of books on our Texas lore and legends and things like that. Lyle Blackburn, his Boggy Creek books. And good thing about Lyle's books, I'm in just about every one of them. So he writes about me a lot. So I would enjoy y'all getting in there and reading those. But those are some real good books.
All righty. Well, sir, I would like to thank you for being on the show again. And it's too bad we had so many technical difficulties to begin with. But like you said, it's probably some cell towers hanging by a thread somewhere between y'all and us.
Right, absolutely.
Any other?
It was my pleasure.
Any other upcoming events that you can think of that I failed to mention?
You pretty much covered all of them. Yeah, I have a lot of events that I do every year in Tyler, Comic-Cons and different events. If you go to Jericho Tours of Tyler, their page usually has all of the upcoming events on them. Just watch my Facebook page if you're my friend or whatever. If you're not, go to my Texas Goatman page or Jeff Cryptohulk Stewart professional page. You can go on there, and any events or anything that I'm going to be doing will be listed on those pages as well.
Well, fantastic, sir. I do appreciate you being on the show, and I'll have you back soon, hopefully as soon as you get your book out. And next time, maybe we won't have so many technical difficulties.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
All righty. I'll let you go then, sir. Thank you much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was Jeff Stewart, better known as the Cryptohulk. And the first couple minutes of the show, if you were listening, well, we just couldn't get anything to work. Well, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Next Saturday, we will be talking about some weird roadside attractions out there that you might be interested in. And so, until next time, this is Chris James with Strange Things. And yes, we didn't run any commercials today because, well, he was a little too interesting to listen to.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? This ain't murder 3. Strange things that happen here, how stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?